Hey there, and welcome. If you're a gardener, you know the struggle is real when it comes to pests. Today, we're going to build a complete playbook to manage them the organic way. It's all about turning that frustration into a garden that's not just productive, but truly thriving. Let's dive in.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You pour your heart into nurturing a plant from a tiny little seed, only to come out one morning and find it's just covered in holes, or worse, weird bugs. It feels like this never-ending battle. But what if there's a totally different way to approach this whole thing?
So here's the big idea, the one thing that changes everything. We need to stop thinking of ourselves as exterminators waging a war and start thinking like ecosystem managers. Your garden isn't some sterile battlefield, you know. It's a living, breathing community. And the goal isn't to kill every last bug, but to create a sense of balance. In this quote, it just nails it. We're not trying to fight against nature, we're trying to learn how to work with it. The ultimate goal here is to build a resilient garden, one that can pretty much take care of itself. So how on earth do we actually do that?
Well, we do it with a strategy, a really clear one. And I want to introduce you to something called the pest control pyramid. Think of it like our game plan, our decision-making guide. It's built on 5 different levels with one simple rule. You always start at the bottom with the easiest, least invasive methods, and you only move up a level if you absolutely have to.
So we start at the base of the pyramid. And let me tell you, this is by far the most important level of all, prevention. The idea here is so simple but so powerful. A healthy plant growing in healthy soil is naturally resistant to pests. It's basically like giving your garden a rock-solid immune system. Pests, a lot of the time, are just nature's cleanup crew. They're looking for plants that are already weak or stressed out. And building this strong foundation, it's actually pretty straightforward. It all begins with rich, healthy soil, packed with compost and organic matter. Then, be smart about choosing plant varieties that are known to do well in your specific area. Rotating where you plant things each year helps break the life cycles of pests that live in the soil. And try practicing polyculture. That just means mixing different plants together instead of planting one big long row of the same thing. It really confuses pests that are looking for their favorite meal.
A huge part of prevention is something called companion planting. This is seriously clever stuff. It's the art of using certain plants to protect each other. A classic example is planting marigolds. Their strong scent can actually confuse the cabbage moth, which makes it way harder for her to find your broccoli or kale. Planting strong-smelling herbs like basil or rosemary throughout your veggie patch does a similar thing.
Now, even with the best foundation, you might still get a few determined pests showing up. And that brings us up to level 2 on our pyramid, physical barriers. The logic here is just beautifully simple. If a pest can't physically get to your plant, it can't eat it. End of story.
And our toolkit for defense is pretty diverse. You've got fine insect mesh or row covers to stop flying insects like cabbage moths. Of course, fencing is non-negotiable if you've got deer or rabbits. But you can get really creative with smaller things too. A simple cardboard collar around a ceiling stops a cutworm dead in its tracks. And that copper tape, it creates a little electrical charge that slugs and snails just will not cross.
Okay, so let's say a few pests have snuck past your defenses. First thing, don't panic. Welcome to level 3, manual intervention. This is where we take our first active step. And yeah, it usually means getting your hands a little dirty. You know, there's this old saying that just says it all. Simply spending a few minutes walking through your garden every day. That is one of the most effective things you can possibly do. When you're out there, you spot problems when they're small. You know, just a few eggs on the underside of a leaf or a single caterpillar, long before they explode into a major infestation.
And your go-to moves here are about as low-tech as it gets, but trust me, they work. For bigger pests, like those giant tomato hornworms or squash bugs, you just pick them off. The best time to do it is early in the morning when they're still kind of slow and sluggish. And for tiny pests like aphids, a good, strong blast of water from the hose is amazing. It knocks them right to the ground, where they either die or become an easy snack for predators.
Okay, now we get to my absolute favorite level of the pyramid, biological control. This is where we stop doing all the work ourselves and we start to recruit an army of allies to help us out. We're basically creating a welcoming habitat for the good bugs that love to eat the bad bugs.
So what exactly are these beneficial insects? Well, they're the predators and parasites that are a totally natural part of the ecosystem. We're talking about the good guys, right? The ladybugs, the lacewings, hoverflies, even certain types of wasps. When you encourage them to make a home in your garden, you're creating this self-policing system where pest populations get kept in check, naturally.
So how do you get this army to show up?
It's easier than you think. You basically just need to put out a welcome mat for them, and that welcome mat is flowers. A lot of these beneficials are pollinators as adults, and they love the nectar from small flowers. So if you plant things like dill, fennel, and parsley, and you just let them flower, you'll bring in a whole team of helpers. For instance, the adult hoverfly sips nectar, but its larva, it's a hungry aphid-eating machine.
Another really smart biological trick is using what's called a trap crop. Now this sounds a little backward at first, but you intentionally plant something that pests absolutely love. A great example is planting nasturtiums to draw in aphids. The aphids flock to the nasturtiums, leaving your precious vegetables alone. Then you can just remove that infested trap crop, taking all the pests with it. It's brilliant.
All right, so we've climbed all the way to the very top of the pyramid. Targeted action. This is where organic sprays enter the picture, but I really want to stress this. This is our last resort. We only come up to this level if a major infestation is about to completely wipe out a crop and the other 4 levels just haven't been enough to stop it.
But here's the deal. Even with organic sprays, you've got to be smart and responsible. There are rules to this game. First, you have to know exactly what pest you're dealing with so you can pick the right tool for the job. Always test the spray on a small leaf first to make sure it won't damage the plant. And this is crucial. Only spray at dawn or dusk, when our friendly pollinators like bees are tucked away and not active.
So let's quickly look at 3 common options. You've got insecticidal soap, which is great for soft-bodied bugs like aphids. It works on contact, basically damaging their outer shell, so you have to spray it directly on them. Then there's neem oil, which is fascinating. It's a hormone disruptor. It messes with an insect's ability to eat and reproduce. And finally, there's Bt. This is a naturally occurring bacteria that's deadly only to caterpillars. It's a super targeted solution if cabbage worms are your problem.
And that's it. That's the whole playbook, right there. You start with a super strong foundation of prevention. You back that up with physical barriers for defense. You manage any small problems that pop up by hand. You invite in an army of allies to help police the garden. And only then, as the absolute last resort, do you take targeted action with a spray. See? It's not just a random list of things to do. It's a real strategy.
Look, if you remember nothing else from all of this, just remember this one thing. The goal is not 0 pests. That's a myth. It's impossible. The goal is one healthy, thriving, balanced ecosystem where nature's doing most of the work for you.
So I'm going to leave you with a final thought to chew on. What if pests aren't really our enemies at all? What if they're actually messengers? What if an aphid outbreak isn't an attack, but a sign that your plant is stressed or that your soil is missing something? Pests can tell us so much, and if we learn to listen to what they're saying, they can actually help us become much better gardeners. Thanks for watching.